BXB. It's in the game!
Titanfall came out in March 2014, exclusively on the Xbox platform. It was a quiet time for the game's release during that time of year in March, and at that point, it's not like we were inundated with games on the Xbox One. Now here I am back with a review of Titanfall 2, and it's a very different proposition because it's releasing in November, historically one of the busiest times of year for a release. And you know what? There are a lot more games on Xbox One, and Titanfall 2 is actually coming to PS4 as well. Now, before I talk about, the importance of this release window and what it could mean for the game, let's actually look at Titanfall 2 in one of my typical reviews, which is off the cuff, one take, based on a few notes and extensive playing of the game. And what I found with Titanfall 2 is that I'm enjoying this game possibly even more than I enjoyed Titanfall. Now, I've played a lot of the multiplayer. I played a lot with a group of guys from BXB and from what was Xbox back in the day. And when Titanfall first came out, there wasn't that many games, that could capture a really fun multiplayer experience on Xbox One. And it really stood out. Its mixture of fast-paced, wall-running combat, when you're actually on foot, with the amazing combat that you got when you're in your Titan or your mech, the big mechanized robot / walking tank thing that you could bring down in Titanfall, as the name of the game suggests. You call it down from orbit and it comes crashing down onto the battlefield. You can even use that as a weapon itself. It's pretty awesome, pretty spectacular stuff. And what we've got here with Titanfall 2's multiplayer is in many ways a refinement of what we got from Titanfall 1. And the guys at Respawn Entertainment have tried to take on a lot of the criticisms of Titanfall. And, some of the guys I was playing with would say some of those alterations, some of those changes that have been made are for the detriment of Titanfall 2. Personally, though, after playing it a bit longer and getting away from that launch weekend slightly, the buzz of it and trying to deal with the changes, I really like the alterations that have been made for the most part of the game. Now, there are some modes that we have here in Titanfall 2 which feel completely pointless. Such as Capture the Flag, which just didn't play well at all. But some of the new modes like Bounty Hunt, which is the idea of getting rewards for the kills, a currency which you then bank, gives a real to and fro to the situation. Attrition, which is probably my favourite mode, and it's a mode that's come from the first game as well, basically is a team deathmatch but with enemy bots and AI which will count towards your score. So even if you're not great, you can really be racking up those kills and helping the team and getting your Titan called down. One of the things that from we played in the tech test was it felt like time to death was a little bit too quick and time to actually get in a Titan was a little bit too long. But everything has been tweaked and massaged and polished to make a fast-paced, skill-based shooter, which at the same time as being heavily sort of skill-focused, still feels really accessible. I'm by no means a competitive first-person shooter gamer anymore. I used to think maybe back in the days of Halo 2 and the first Modern Warfare, I could hold my own in clan matches and things like that, but I'm certainly not there anymore. I'm getting old, my reflexes aren't what they used to be, I suppose. But even with that, the ease of movement, the way, locomotion works in Titanfall feels just so good. Considering there's a game like Mirror's Edge Catalyst out there, which is all about first-person sort of locomotion and mobility, Titanfall makes it look like it's a chump. Honestly, the controls here, the sliding, the wall running, the sprinting, just all mobility, and then mixed in with the great gunplay, the real weight of the guns. They've added a lot of guns to Titanfall 2 in the multiplayer. And it does feel a little unnecessary because at first glance a lot of them feel very similar, but I actually found myself picking to a loadout I liked, leveling up those weapons, and that's what I've got good at, and that's what I'm playing with it. So while there is choice there, it also encourages specialization and really getting to know your pilot's abilities. And then of course there are the Titans, and what they've done, instead of making you being able to customize a Titan exactly how you want, have specific Titans that you can choose from. And those Titans have some customization within them, but they also have very distinctive silhouettes, much like your pilots do, so indicate what kind of loadout you're going for. So therefore it's all about being able to recognize the enemies you're going up against, and therefore employing the best tactics and strategies to deal with them. And there is a lot of depth to that. You do think about the loadouts you want to carry the best deal with your opponents you're facing. And because of that, I think, the alterations that Respawn have made in the multiplayer aspect of Titanfall Titanfall 2 is definitely improved over Titanfall 1. It takes a little bit of getting used to if you played well the first game, and I think sort of the omission of a horde mode, you know, is a sad thing, because it was something they were added in quite late in Titanfall. It was part of a free update, and I hope they do the same with Titanfall 2, because, you know, the idea of just being able to play against the AI is a lot of fun, especially if you just want a relaxed situation. But I actually found myself playing the multiplayer of Titanfall 2. It's not a stressful situation. It's actually a really engaging and fun multiplayer, which doesn't feel too pressured. Like I said, there's definitely modes in there that, you know, aren't required, and something I've noticed is that, you know, we are in that sort of launch window, that week or so around the launch of the game. There's just not that many people playing, even in the most popular modes. And as you see here in this screenshot, from a mode I was just trying out just tonight at about 6 p.m. in the evening, there were 17 people playing free-for-all. 17 people is a very, very small amount of players, even at not quite peak time. And just that's, you know, just the UK data center, but it's indicative, I think, of the fact that this game, as we've just heard from some recent numbers, has actually sold less than the original Titanfall did when it was released. And bear that in mind. Okay, it was, you know, the original Titanfall came out at a much better time of year for this than this game, perhaps, and was only on the Xbox, and it sold more than this multi-platform release has. And I think that's a real shame, just based on the multiplayer experience that I played with Titanfall 2. It's a big improvement. It plays really, really well. The maps are a bit bigger and a bit more open, but it just means you're dealing with things in a different way. And, you know, once you get the hang of that, once you get the hang of the changes and the hang of the pilot class and the hang of the different Titans, and really start to get into it, you know, I think it's a damn fine experience in multiplayer. But that's not even talking about the biggest surprise of Titanfall, and that is the single player. Now, what they have done, Respawn, with this single player is they said to their developers, come up with some ideas, come up with some kind of concepts for levels, and, you know, not just levels actually, concepts for things that can interact with the world. And I have to be difficult, it's difficult to describe this because I don't want to spoil some of the cool things that get revealed in the story mode. But it is crazy. It is absolute balls to the wall sci-fi action at its best. It's got concepts that you don't expect to show up in the Titanfall franchise. It's got great use of all the pilots' mobility options. You know, some levels almost that there is no combat at all. It's just traversal. It's like a platforming level. It's fantastic. But then you have these massive action-packed set pieces. It's what Respawn put themselves on the map with when they, you know, came out with Modern Warfare for the first time. These guys back then when they were, you know, oh god, yeah, Infinity Ward, there we go, pulled it out of the air. I'm going to be playing that probably very shortly, the new Call of Duty, so I'm trying not to get too distracted by that right now. Let's just talk about Titanfall 2. But yeah, these guys really construct an amazing tight story mode that doesn't overstay its welcome, that feels immediate and exciting, and when you get these like Titan on Titan boss fights that really show off the different abilities of the Titan. There are elements of the story mode and the campaign, you know, that feel like a bit like multiplayer training for some of the Titans, but that helps in a way. It helps you really get familiar with them. But yeah, the actual story is sci-fi bobbins, but done in the most fun and engaging way. It's one of the best single-player stories I've experienced so far this year, and it really is standing out wonderfully against the competition. The competition being Battlefield 1, which I just reviewed about a week ago, and then Call of Duty coming up. So let's end on that. This was the wrong time to release Titanfall 2. Sales numbers, multiplayer data, you know, you can see the amount of players playing this game. It's a small amount for a big game like this, and it's a real shame because I think this game is going to get overlooked. But it's not getting overlooked so far for bad games. Another EA released game, Battlefield 1, is exceptional. I gave it 5 stars. And Titanfall 2 is everything you'd hope from a sequel to Titanfall. You know, a better multiplayer, an amazing story, which we're all clamouring for, as I was clamouring for with that first game, because it's such an interesting universe, you know, and these Titans, you know, mixed with the marine type aspects in space, with these colonies. It's got so many rich possibilities, and they've really gone for it with this story, and I'd love to see more, but with, you know, the sales data and the multiplayer data, I'm not sure we will ever see more, and it's a real shame, because this, much like Battlefield 1, is an exceptional shooter, and much like Battlefield 1, I am scoring this 5 out of 5.
BXB. It's in the game.